Click the links to join the channel here, become a member, or the various other links. So the BLT gets treated differently in Japan, so the American soy boys and cat ladies have to come along and ruin it whenever they see people having a good time or something outside of their control. This is why it's so important to gatekeep out these political commissars. So these people are the best advertisements for their opposite. Whatever they're afraid of is what we need to focus on to cleanse the world of this filth and degeneracy. Ah, you evil fash with your protecting kids from predators, such Hugo Boss. So there's this Japanese comic that these soy boys, they just love it, but then they need to change everything about it to make it fit their pussy worldview. Because to these parasites, everything has to be globalist propaganda, even if it comes from a culture of ethno-national Japan. So they come out with this comic, and one of the characters is a male who disguises himself as a female, which most people just don't have a big deal with, because we're not all like teenagers terminally addicted to Twitter and Tumblr and all that sort of thing. Most people just accept it. It doesn't have to be any deeper than that. But it runs into these American pussy soy boys who think everyone around the world has to believe in their bizarre worldview. There's no diversity of thought is allowed. Now, the problem is, in America, some soy boys take this BLT thing seriously. It's a small percent. Most people know it's just a childish fad pushed by these bullshit parasites to lower birth rates of green and blue-eyed people. Because these are these demon-human hybrids who are enslaving humanity. So anyway, these globalist soy boys can't respect different cultures. The artist wrote this comic. The guy is just using a disguise. He's not trans, but the American soy pussies have to turn him BLT because everything has to be used as propaganda. Because the concept of somebody using a female disguise doesn't fit in their worldview. It's not mocking them, as it would be great, and the world definitely needs more mocking of these people, more slaughtering of those sacred cows. Was that a death threat? But it doesn't seem to be an issue. It's just different in Japan. It's like characters wearing black makeup to get a laugh. Asia does that all the time because it is legitimately just different for them. They don't have the same connections. But to American soy people, everything. Apparently, they do it in Canada too, right? Justin Trudeau, like multiple times. Weird. You guys elected that guy. Anyway, so to American soy people, everything has to be a big deal because the first world problems. They're bored and they're kind of like they have to form parasocial relationships around, like maybe the right does it by focusing on sports, which is just the stupidest thing. Even everyone, I will say sports has died down a lot, or at least people kind of keep that close to the vest because if you hear somebody talk about sports, it's like you share looks with other people. It's like, so you're still watching sports, huh? Then people say some things under their breath. You get the idea. But I think the left has parasocial relationships with other things because, like, I don't know, maybe everyone needs some sort of conflict in their life, so they get it. They figure out like these windmills to tilt again. You don't understand though. It's a windmill of friendship. We need to destroy it. It's like it's just a windmill, and you're just mentally ill. Not everyone is a dragon. So what a translator should do is try to stay as close to the artist's original intent as possible. But that doesn't happen with these bleeding vagina estrogen dripping soy twats. They have to change everything to fit their worldview. Dear soy boy, what if there are different cultures that don't take the trans thing seriously? Don't you respect that diversity of thought? No, absolutely not. It's inconceivable to them that they might be brainwashed, manipulated puppets. So you're one of these BLTs today, or that's how you identify, and half the kids are BLTs or monkeypox, walks, furry, other kids sterilize their kids. But 10,000 years ago, this wasn't happening if you're scoping through the hieroglyphics and whatnot. And neither was it happening 1,000 years. If you're looking at those, what are those things? Those tapestries? That's fabric, right? They sew those things together. Or, wasn't happening 100 years ago, but recently in what looks like a mass psychosis of crowd hysteria, half the kids in the past 5 years are now BLT and are cutting their breasts or their nuts off or taking puberty blockers and cross hormone stuff, and they go, it's completely reversible. No, it's not. It's funny. I occasionally I'll have that argument with somebody on Twitter to say it's irreversible. I go, where do you think that's from? Are you saying that somebody got off blockers at 18 that they would undergo a full window of puberty and you realize they don't know what they're talking about? So then they provide a source, right? And then you read the source, you're like, the source that you provided me literally says it talks about bone plate growth closure. It literally says in the source you provided that it's irreversible. You didn't read your own source. It's like you look at these kids and realize like they're just the most brainwashed generation of people on earth. Anyway, yeah, none of this is organic. That's the signs of a Weimar level stack society ammo. It's weird that the media doesn't cover diverse perspectives on how perhaps this is just a globalist pushed act of war to destroy a country. Oh wait, the media is right. Never mind. So the media, the parasites were the media, friends along the way the whole time. Anyway, there's this great scene in the comic. It's not exactly mocking the mentally ill American soy boys, which they totally effing deserve, and I would do more of if I was allowed to on YouTube. But it doesn't even take them seriously enough to mock them. It just kind of walks the story over them, where this dressing like a girl character has nothing to do with the American bullshit propaganda. His pursuers see through his feminine disguise and say essentially that they can smell his, I'll say, male pheromones, which is a better translation than the literal translation, which is kind of gross. Which is funny because you, of course, can't hide what you are, from your skeletal architecture to the heart and lungs pumping blood. You're always what you were born as. Your sex assigned at birth. You mean described at birth? No, it's assigned by the doctor. Do you have a godlike power to assign your sex? He sees a penis and testicles and says, "Oh, that's a boy." It's every cell of your body's almost every cell. Some of the sperm cells, I guess, contain female blueprints, but you get the idea. It's like, yeah, that's not a sign. That's like the words you're saying when the argument starts with a lie and then they build off this lie. It's like that's kind of the castles on sand type of thing. So, I mean, it's just peak Weimar broken civilization, where things that are not in accord with reality are taken seriously, and people go, "Oh, well, it's just a white lie. It's just be nice and just placate them by engaging in their nonsense." But then they build on it and build on it. It's like, but it was nonsense right from the start. It's like if you had nipped it in the bud, and said, "No, no, this is nonsense. We're not going to take part in this," and you had the argument right then and there, it would have been better than to put it off, and then have the argument later after kids have literally been putting on drugs, you get the idea, or mutilate themselves, or in worst case scenario, sterilize themselves. Yeah, looks back, it's like, I kind of wish we had nipped this in the bud. Yeah. I mean, it's better to have conflict right up front than just keep putting it off. So these globalist useful idiots are the most myopic, intolerant, hateful people. The mere idea that different people have different opinions doesn't fit their carefully constructed worldview because they have no core dogma. They're rootless, cut off, mentally, kind of mouse children 100 years or 70 years later. They don't believe in anything but the current thing, and it's a carefully constructed artificial dream world that can't withstand any criticism or it collapses instantly. This bullshit found family concept of the most insane beliefs is a very delicate, fleeting construct. It only works in the social media first world matrix where enough poor people are well fed enough to be obese that they can have time and energy to this is what I mean about, like, and it's not parasocial relationships. It's a need, like, people watch sports because they have the need for conflict and conflict resolution. It's like, you should exercise. Have you considered perhaps walking up a hill? I think you'll find that will satisfy your need for conflict and resolution, because you'll be seeing a challenge before you and you'll be overcoming it, and you'll feel actually pretty good about walking up a hill, because the next day you'll try to go up a little faster, and then month by month eventually you will be going up that hill faster. It's much better than sitting down and watching other men have exercise. That's the most painfully, that's the part of the humiliation ritual for a conquered cattle death slave people, is that sports, like watching other men exercise, is so freaking bizarre. At least they don't watch women. Hey, how's that WNBA going? Oh, it's subsidized by the NBA to tune $11 million. Yeah, I wouldn't watch either one of them. Anyway, so all this stuff requires social media to exist, to breathe artificial life into it. I almost said Frankenstein. You almost got me there. But I think his mockery at life was called Adam. Great book, much better than Dracula. I have reread Dracula several times. I get, I don't know, halfway, three-quarters through it. I realize I'd rather just be doing anything else. I'd rather go weed the garden. And I have a huge book completion rate. I will force myself to get through books. Dracula, it's one of the rare exceptions. It's like one of the books that's on everyone's list, and I can admit it's like, yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten quite to the end of it. It's you'd have to be sitting there with me, paying me to read it. So most belief systems and structures that aren't quite a religion, like some paganism or Christianity or Satire are passed down from the parents, the extended family, and your tribal family. You got books and ceremonies, traditions for the winter solstice. You go to church, you burn sage at the black sun, all that kind of whatever. It's a connection to your ancestors or the god or gods. With or without social media, you still align stones to the stars or read the Bibles and history. This current BLT social contagion is different in that it's none of that. It's a computer network driven, massively parallel social contagion pushed by globalist, useful idiot, midwit, cat lady teachers and social media influencers. The Kardashianification of the world, which has nothing to do with Kardashian. It has to do with that network that turned the Kardashians into a $4 billion enterprise. So without social media reinforcement, these kids wouldn't be BLT. Without enough food, it would all disappear. You're Christian on a mountaintop, trapped in the snow, freezing to death. You were born as one, and you will die and enter the afterlife as one. You're pagan when you're poor or rich, whether you're homeschooled in a commune in Idaho surrounded by a bunch of based chads making up your tribe. The BLT thing is different. When the Weimar inflation hits, thanks 1913 Federal Reserve. It's federal. It's got federal in the name. Yeah, yeah. And then the 1914 World War One. Oh, we need to pay for the war with a temporary tax. So Federal Reserve in 1913. Then you start with this thing called World War One. So you need to go 5,000 miles away to fight a war. You bet your ass we do. We need to tax you to pay for it. Yeah. So did the founding fathers want central banks? This was this fractional reserve lending system and the Rothschilds and all that? No, they did not. So did the founding fathers, did they want to be the world's policemen? No, they did not. That's, you're protected by two oceans. You only got to worry about the north and the south, right? Yeah. So okay. So taxation, Federal Reserve, and then endless wars that started in 1914, World War One, World War Two, Korea, and Vietnam, then other Central American exploits and incursions around. Oh, those are just police actions. Yeah, so like, what's the value of the dollar and the debt? What was it been over the past 150 years? Oh, you don't need to focus on that. I think we do. I think maybe it's weird. People always talk about like the economy and pay and money. Go, you want to pay people more. Doesn't it just cause runaway Weimar inflation? Why don't you think anyone wants to look at the 1913, the start of it all? No, we don't need to focus on that. Why would you want to focus on that? Because everything else is just deck chairs on the Titanic until you fix the monetary system. Well, we're not going to do that. Okay. So isn't this just a wealth transfer to people who are pulling the strings on that financial system? Yeah, but I thought the 13th Amendment was outlawed. It's like, well, some circumstances it's allowed. So anyway, so when the Weimar inflation hits, and it will, and people suddenly start finding their clothes are fitting a bit looser, and the BLT thing is going to take a back seat, but fat or starving to death, you're still a follower of Christ or Mars or whatever you're into. I was going to say that isolated communities away from social media and the BLT thing, then it wouldn't exist. But the thing is, unfortunately, now they're having kids. And it's kind of weird, but the rates of their kids thinking that they're the opposite sex is just crazy, super high. I guess that's just a coincidence and not a social contagion. It's just totally organic that when that happens. I mean, I probably would have said that was just male pheromones. That's a bit graphic for most people. Totally organic, friends. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Join me over at Subscribestar. You can join us in Telegram if you're brave, but you need some asbestos panties over there because it's just pretty much nonstop pejoratives and epithets and those are all coming from you. Oh, well, whatever. It's just to toughen people up a little bit. So I think it's good for them. Anyway, I'll see you guys all next episode.